There is an ability in the After Effects software which makes it easier to work with the keyframes and that the graph editor. When I click on it, I will get a graph here. Well, as you can see, all of the keyframes are here too. This graph is actually the graph which is speed based on time. And you see that at this point, for example, I have the speed of 950 and then it falls 319 pixels and then it increases again 1254 pixels per second. Well, I can change these speeds. For example, I can click on each of these keyframes and you see that a handle is created for me and I can use it to easily change the speed. I can also use these buttons to change the speed. For example, I can click on this button and you see that the speed graph here changes, and I can use this handle to change the graph. Well, when I click on start here, you see that here first the speed is very high and then it reduces. Well, suppose I wanted to be very slow at this point. I just need to lower it. Well, you see these are the changes which I can make very easily on the speed graph. Let me get a cache again, and you see that how my shape is moving. And you can use the graph editor to set a speed for your file. There are also some settings here like the ease buttons, which you can set for each keyframe, Bezier, and also the other buttons, linear, and all the other buttons in my keyframe. Well, I press Ctrl Z to go back to the previous state. I can click here and have the graph based on the position of my file, and then set some keyframes for it. Well, you see that here I have two keyframes. I have two graphs here, the x-axis and also the y-axis, which is the green graph. Well, suppose here I can very easily change the positions here. Well, you see that here my x is increasing and the position of my x here is going towards negative, and then again it moves towards positive. It's the same about y. My shape is going upward here and the y will be negative because it's exactly the opposite about y. As you go upward, the y will be negative, and when you come downward, the y will be positive. So it's going up, the y is negative, then it's coming down, the y is positive, and then it becomes negative again. Well, I can change any of them individually, which I want. Well, you see that I can increase my x and put it here, and you see that y changes too at the same time. For example, if I put it here and get a cache first, you see that the x-axis is changing here. I can also change these and add a Bezier mode to my keyframe and change it. Or I can come on my first keyframe and set it on easy ease out, and you see that it changes. Well, this is the graph based on position. You can change the position for them. For example, let me set this keyframe on here like this, and go back to my speed graph again. Well, you see here that my speed is changed. The speed graph is changed. I can use this button to fit this speed. And I can use this handle to easily change the speed of my file in whatever way I want. For example, I want to put this one here and this keyframe here. And I want it to have a very fast speed here. Let me get a cache first. Well, you see that it moves here and it has very fast speed here, and then it stops. Well, this is how you can work with the graphs. You can also use this button to activate your position graph. Well, you see that as I change the speed, the position has also changed here. There are also other buttons, like, for example, how I want to see my page here. There are also some special settings which I'll talk about later in the more advanced topics. And here I can set a very simple graph, or watch it as a video. Also, the other buttons, for example, the keyframes, which are all of the buttons where when I right click on them, I can also see them. The different modes of linear, bezier, bold, and also the ease buttons, which I can use. Well, let me set it back to reference graph, and you see that at this point pay attention to the distance between the points. When I move it, the speed is very slow, and when it reaches this point, exactly this point, you see that the distance between the 2 points is very high, and this is exactly because of this graph here, the speed graph here, where the speed is the most here. Well, this was the keyframes topic and how you can work with the graph editor panel, which is very useful, and you could use it in more complicated projects. I can also come back to this panel and press tilde to maximize it, and to work with it much easier. Well, now I've added a new amount to my position. You see how my shape is moving. Well, this was the graph editor topic, and to learn this very well, you need to practice a lot. But if you really learn how to work with it, you'll have a neater projects.